So, most people unfortunately find themselves doing jobs that they don't look forward to every day, or they probably aren't even interested in at all. But it's really just a means to an end, and the only real motivation is survival. Or in the case of those who are in school, they find themselves studying courses that they are coerced into taking. Now, there's nothing wrong with giving folks direction in life or taking a job, no matter how uninteresting it is to you, in order to make something to survive. I mean, most people don't even know what they want to do with the rest of their lives, career-wise, so this is no surprise. But eventually, people realize they do have interests and they want to break free and follow their passions. Now, sadly, most people are unable to because of the mess they find themselves in. But let's say we do want to change the situation and break free of the matrix, as I like to call it. Now, the first step really is acknowledgement. I always say this in my episodes, but it's extremely important, especially as a first step. Now, it's vital to acknowledge to yourself that you are unhappy or unfulfilled with the current situation. Now, of course, you might be making a lot of money, but are you really happy? Yes, I know they say money can't buy happiness, but it actually can, honestly, depending on where your happiness is. So you need to do a deep search within you and ask the vital question: am I really happy? I mean, do you wake up every day and excited to do what you do? Aside the bad days, of course. Now, when you do eventually realize you're not, you would obviously want to do something about it. And here comes the tricky part. Now, discovering what you want to do for the bulk of your life is hard, I'll admit. And it takes a while to figure it out. It might even take years. But let me try and motivate you with a story of mine. So, as a kid, I wanted to become a number of things. Spanning over my childhood. In the beginning, I wanted to become a comic book artist or a cartoonist. And I even went as far as to create fictional comics that I shared with my friends. I was no artist, but I could draw and I could build stories, so give me some credit. Now, that fell off for some reason, and now I wanted to become a naturalist. So a naturalist is someone who studies or is an expert in natural history, especially a zoologist or a botanist. So again, I went as far as to create an entirely new club in my school called the Naturalist Ghanaian Association. Yeah, they're getting it right. Yes, Naturalist Ghanaian Association. Yes, Naturalist Ghanaian Association, known as NGA. To my friends who remember, shout out to you guys. And I got a couple of friends to join as members and executives. And at one point, I even started collecting dues and funds. Like I did some sort of fundraising from external sources to forward the club's purpose. And I remember I ended up writing to the Ghana Wildlife Society to get the club recognized as an official one. Again, this somehow fell off, like this whole club thingy fell off. And I moved on to wanting to become a musician. But as you probably know the trend, this also fell off. Now, eventually, I transitioned from wanting to become a musician to an astronaut, to an astrophysicist, to an astrobiologist, to a business tycoon, and to what I am now. Don't ask what I want to become now, it's complicated. Now, we may think these are just childish musings, and everyone experiences this, but this is what finding your passion may look like. Only as an adult, it's a lot less fun and expensive, honestly. It's fine to hop on and off things because you really get the chance to discover and understand yourself. Now, I'm not saying you should go passion hopping because everyone is different. Some may take longer than others because they have to discover themselves, and some may not have to think too much about it because they have a fair idea of what they want. But to make things easier for you, it's best to tackle things at a minimum. So you ask yourself, does this excite me? Do I see myself growing strong in the next couple of years? And when you do decide to delve into these things, it's ideal not to make big commitments. It's best to take things at a slow pace and periodically assess yourself and see if you really enjoy doing what you're doing. And that way you don't get caught up in doing something you thought you liked. Okay, so now you know what your passions are. You ask yourself, what now? Do I leave my current 9-to-5 job and pursue my passion full time? Do I drop out of school and focus on my dreams? Of course not. This isn't some Mark Zuckerberg success story. Well, yes and no. Let me explain. For most people, no, you shouldn't just outright drop out of school or turn in your resignation. Let's start with the 9-to-5er. If you do want to leave your current job, that's fine. You should. But you should have a plan. For most people, no job equals no income. So you should have enough savings or cash freeway to support you as you make the transition. And for people in school, it's a bit more difficult. Yes, you could just also drop out. But for most students in Ghana, just imagine the sounding you are going to receive from your parents when you even bring up the idea. For such people, you have to take things more slowly. If you have understanding and supportive parents that will buy into your passion, then you're good to go. But for those who don't, you're going to have to sit it out. And at least until you complete school. And it will be better for you to take some form of self-learning to prepare yourself when you finally make the transition when you're done with school. And this is also the same for people who can quit their jobs for one reason or another. You just have to start your passion as a side hustle of some sorts. And unfortunately, you're going to have to deal with some sort of balancing acts, where on one side your passion becomes extracurricular, and on the other you have to live with the thing you are already caught up in. But I won't lie to you, this balancing act is hard. I've had some personal experience with it. I quite remember in my sophomore year in uni, I realized what I was studying was not what I wanted to really do. Now, this in particular hit me very hard, especially for someone who used to hop from one passion to another. So I was thinking, was this the final hop? Would I actually settle down and finally see this thing through? Now, when I realized this was finally it, I had to deal with the balancing act. And this was really difficult for me because I had to choose things I didn't enjoy over the passion I was so eager to pursue. And honestly, it was really depressing. People told me it would get better, but it didn't for a very long time. Anyway, I managed to live through it and I'm at peace with myself. So how then do you do this balancing act? You see, it's really just a matter of time management and priorities. In the end, you just have to make time to do what you love to do. Okay, so you've acknowledged that you're unhappy, identified your passions, and successfully done the balancing act. Now comes the moment of truth, escaping the matrix. So at this point, you want to evaluate yourself and ask yourself, do you have enough savings or alternative income sources to sustain you during the period of your transition? You would also want to consider the skills and knowledge you required while doing the balancing act. And you can ask yourself, are you adequately prepared for the leap? All checked. Okay, go make the jump. I'm so proud of you. Okay, on a more serious note, at this point, you should be ready to embrace uncertainty. Making the jump to a life driven by passion requires a blend of courage, strategy, and genuine belief in your capabilities. You should remember, it's not just about escaping the matrix. It's about building a new, fulfilling reality aligned with your authentic self. Okay, so that wraps up today's episode. If you would like to connect with me on my socials, I'm totally up for that. Or you can use the Q&A section on the episode. Yeah, so that's pretty much it. I'll see you in the next episode.